Welcome back to Montreal Connected. It's the 20th anniversary of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. They've built an incredible card for the event taking place in its hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada, UFC 167. So joining me today to talk UFC are Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM.
Hey,
Thanks for joining us. And owner of Adrenaline Performance Center, John Chaimberg. John, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
All right, guys, a decade ago, the UFC was a small $2 million operation. Today, Forbes estimates its value at over $2 billion. How did this come to be?
Well, the UFC came along at a great time. The popularity started to rise when boxing started to falter. WWE also started to falter, and the product's just so great that it captivated all the fans, and it took off from there.
Yeah, and I think he's right. I mean, the UFC has replaced basically the WWF that we used to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It still has all the characters, it still has all the storylines, it still has the youthfulness, but at the same time, it's real. And you got a commissioner like Dana White, who's not 74, who's not dressed up in a suit and tie. He shows up at press conferences in a t-shirt, running shoes, and when he doesn't like something, he tweets about it, and he's blunt about it. And I think they've done a good job of trying to get the young people in, and it works.
Well, 4 of the 5 largest live gates have taken place here in Montreal. How much of that has to do with GSP, do you think?
Absolutely. A lot of it has to do. I mean, if I look back and I compare to how popular the Formula One was here when Jacques Villeneuve was champion of the world, and now you have Georges St-Pierre who's champion of the world, and people want to support local athletes. When you got a young guy doing well like that, you want to rally behind him. You're curious to know, what is he doing and why is he doing it so well? So, of course, it has a huge impact.
For sure. He's French-Canadian, he's a good-looking guy, he's a great athlete. People love good athletes. And with Montreal, Toronto was banned, so Ontario was banned for a while. Montreal was the first place that they held the UFC event. They were used to holding it in Las Vegas, where the MGM Grand, let's see, seats 11,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal filled the capacity, 21,000 screaming fans. It was an unbelievable experience. And everybody from Ontario, everybody from around Canada came here to cheer on Georges St-Pierre.
Now, George is fighting for the first time in a long time in Las Vegas, in the States. He's brought in an impressive group of trainers to his training camp, as he always does when he prepares for a title defense. You've trained him before. What is his strategy facing Johnny Hendricks?
Well, Georges St-Pierre has great conditioning, and he's great all around. He's one of the new breed of guys who is good in all disciplines. Johnny Hendricks has tremendous power in both hands, is a very elite wrestler. His conditioning is suspect. His ground game is suspect. So for George, being that it's a 5-round fight, Johnny Hendricks has never fought 5 rounds. He's better off pushing the fight to the later rounds, number 1, and trying to gas out Johnny Hendricks. Obviously, staying clear of Johnny Hendricks' bombs in both hands. Mm-hmm. And he's going to have to take Johnny down and ground and pound him and maybe submit him. Johnny has great wrestling, but it's MMA, so it's a different kind of wrestling, and we'll see. It's a tough fight for George because this is the toughest style matchup that George has ever faced.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I mean, obviously, Hendricks is not used to fighting 5-round championship bouts. I saw him laboring against Carlos Condit there towards the end of that 3rd round. So if Georges St-Pierre is paying attention to that, he knows that he needs to stay into this fight, survive those first 3 rounds. And as of the 4th round, I think he's going to have the edge. And I mean, it's his style to wear guys down slowly but surely. And, I think that's the strategy he's going to use.
Now, George has asked this before every title defense. Diplomatically, he always says that every fight he's going to prepare like it's his last fight. 2-part question. First of all, is there something we don't know? Is this his last fight?
If he wins, I would imagine that it would be a good time for him to retire. I know he's contemplating it, and it would be the perfect gift to himself to step away from the sport, as a winner. So that's part number 1.
Well, we heard an article this week from one of his former mentors urging him to do just that: retire, start a family, open a martial arts school. Yeah. Do you think he should retire after this fight?
It makes sense. I mean, let's look at what Anthony Calvillo is considering right now, retirement. I mean, these guys take blows to the heads. We know what they mean late in their careers. He's done it all. He's champion of the world. There's nothing left for him to conquer. And does he want to risk the rest of his life for what? For one more fight? For a couple of $1 million? And it looks like that Anderson Silva story has finally disappeared now that Silva's lost. So he can basically, retire and say, I've done everything that I need to do. Obviously, we'd like to see him continue fighting. But I think logically, it probably wouldn't be a bad decision.
Okay, and part two of my two-part question now. Is this the biggest fight of his career?
Go ahead.
Listen, I think the first fight coming back from his injury against Carlos Condit, that was a battle. It was a war. He was coming back from a big injury, big operation, and he was able to survive that fight. And I think that one right there was probably the toughest. I don't know if this is the biggest. Obviously, if he's considering retiring after this one, then it probably
that's what
is.
I was going to say. If we're talking about retirement, you want to
Yes.
end on a win. You don't want
Absolutely.
to lose this one. All right. Thanks so much, both of you. That's your Montreal Connected panel for this week.